I'm Michael Reel, and this is REELURBANNEWS.com. We are on the campus of the University of Southern California. It is here that we speak with Dr. Ange-Marie Hancock, author of the report entitled Giving Black, a look at African-American philanthropic efforts here in the city of Los Angeles.
This is the Program for Environmental and Regional Equity in the Center for the Study of Immigrant Integration, and the two programs are sister programs. I'm the Associate Director of the Center for the Study of Immigrant Integration here at USC, and the primary focus of both of these programs is to do community-engaged research, where we work with community organizations to really conduct research that's mutually beneficial. So for an academic, of course, we need publications, we need scholarship, but community organizations need people who are capable of doing research about the questions they care about.
And how are these numbers used, these answers used, the information that you all obtain, how is it used?
Well, we use it in a couple of different ways. So we have, for example, two different scorecards. We have an environmental justice scorecard where people can literally go out and score their communities in the area of environmental justice. We also have an immigrant integration scorecard where we went and we looked at all the different communities in California, or actually several different communities in California, and really analyzed how welcoming are different communities to having more immigrants in their area.
Dr. Ange-Marie Hancock, thank you for being with REELURBANNEWS.com.
Thanks for having me, Michael.
Tell me the genesis of this fascinating report, Giving Black.
So what we've known for several decades through the work of Emmett Carson and a beautiful book by Valeda Fullwood is that African Americans give a lot of their money, their time, their treasures, right? But we didn't really know much about the specifics. We just knew that they gave. And so the Liberty Hill Foundation approached me and asked me to conduct some research in Los Angeles about African Americans in Los Angeles and who they're giving to and why they're giving to certain organizations and people.
What did you find out?
Well, we found out two things. First, we found out that we've so long thought of Black America as one Black America. Sure. But in fact, there are 5 different Black Americas. And they're segmented by class, they're segmented by their immigrant background, a variety of different things. And they give for different reasons because of that.
When you say that we're segregated by class, what are the classes?
Well, we have several classes, and actually I use some of the framework from Eugene Robinson's wonderful book. And so we talk about how there is a transcendent class. Okay. We talk about those folks who are the folks we know by first name. Sure. Barack, Michelle, Magic. We know them we don't know them, but we think we know them. Sure. They're really of the elite status, and even white folks have to really pay attention to what they're doing in their giving. But then there's that big section called the mainstream. And those are the folks who have some college or a college degree or more, make in LA around $80,000 a year household income. And we find that they give a lot of their time, talent, and treasure, such that it adds up to a significant chunk of the money that's given in Black Los Angeles. Sure.
These mainstream givers also attend ecumenical setting in most cases, a church or religious center of some sort, and we know that the church is an influential body in our community in terms of giving and philanthropic activity.
Yes, many of these mainstream African American donors end up, even if they don't live in a Black neighborhood, traveling to a predominantly Black or historically Black church. So whether it's Fame, First African Methodist Episcopal, whether it's West Angeles, whether it's Second Baptist, any number of different, historically Black African American churches, people travel from far and wide to go to those services on Sundays.
How significant is that the church still, in this current society, is a important landing strip, if you will, for giving in Black Los Angeles?
Well, we found something interesting. We found that there was a consistent 25% of the people we surveyed, Black Americans in Los Angeles, who only gave to the church. Okay. And so that's a very staunch kind of percentage. It's a quarter of who we talk to. But that means 75% of Black America is giving across a variety of platforms. So yes, they're giving to the church, but they're also giving to civil rights kinds of organizations. They're also giving to organizations that focus on things like domestic violence or certain kinds of issues. And then they're also giving, and they consider this part of their charitable giving, to family members. We know we've had an economic downturn, and so taking care of our own, whether it's, you know, taking them in and letting them live with us, or whether it's giving them a little bit of money when times are hard, we consider that part of our giving too.
Sure we do. When that phone call comes.
Absolutely. Yeah, you gotta pull out whatever you got.
You know what they want.
Generally at 2 a.m.
It's an emergency.
Yeah.
Programs like the Red Cross, and let's just look at the Red Cross.
Sure.
On the domestic level, we just came through Sandy, and we see those programs after a horrific storm or catastrophe of some sort, natural or man-made. Those programs come to the forefront. Are African Americans in general donors toward those type of organizations?
African Americans in general do donate in times of crisis, absolutely. But their donations tend to be more consistent over time to organizations that they're closer to. So they may give if there's a Katrina or if there's a Sandy or a tsunami, but they're generally giving to things that are closer to them, like their church, like the local NAACP, or something like that.
So in addition to the mainstream Black America and transcendent Black America, you also have the multicultural Blacks and the next generation immigrants. Talk about the multicultural Blacks.
Absolutely. And this is something that we've had for the duration of our history in this country.
Popular now.
Exactly. We have mixed race folks. We've always had mixed race folks. But even if they identify and self-identify as mixed race now versus just identifying as Black as they might have back in the day, what we find is that some of those donors are actually younger donors in general, but also donors who are looking to have a broader impact. And so yes, they want to give to African Americans, but they want to give to them as part of an issue that they care about, or because they're the kind of personality who likes to give their time and their talent and their treasure. So there's a certain sector that are very focused on, I want to give to Black people and lift up the Black community. Those tend not to be in that multicultural Black America.
Okay, so that person is more stayed toward the older level, or let's say not older, but the more solid level of giving, which we would say would be an organization, NAACP, or through their church.
Absolutely. So those older ones don't give towards these kind of broader issues in the same way as much. And then the second part of the multicultural is, of course, even in LA County, one of the things that was surprising to me is that our African American population, as of the 2010 census, is almost 15% immigrant origin. Meaning they're coming from Africa, they're coming from the Caribbean, etc. And so we're still a predominantly African American, meaning U.S. based population, but 15% come with their own traditions of how they give, come with their own kinds of experiences with philanthropy.
What are they doing in terms of giving? Who do they give to? What organizations do they focus on?
Well, they tend to focus on immigrant-oriented kinds of giving, again, to their churches, which are not always the same as those historically Black churches we've talked about. And then also what they do is a form of collective giving. So there are several different countries that have traditions of kind of collective saving that sometimes is used in a philanthropic kind of way. So, for example, in some West Indian countries, they call it the susu, where you give a certain amount each month and everybody gives to a collective pot. And each month, that collective pot goes to a different member.
That's called offering.
Exactly.
I couldn't let that go.
Exactly. So it's the same kind of, we do so many of the same things and we just call it different names, or it has different kinds of histories attached to it.
How did you get to Southern California and on staff here?
Well, I was teaching at Yale University, and I was asked to apply for a position in the political science department, and they gave me the job, which was always good. But I already had a sister here living in Los Angeles, and my husband's in the film industry, so it made a lot of sense to come from New Haven to Los Angeles. And I'd lived in California before, so I know it was a good move.
We were talking off camera that academia is the family business. Bring us up to
Absolutely.
speed.
I've been a professor for 12 years myself, and before that, my father was a professor for 40 years before he passed away.
Wow.
And my grandmother was a kindergarten teacher, so education is in our blood, it's in our bones, and that's what we do in the Hancock family.
What's next for you in terms of your academic arena and in terms of your studies and reports that give us so much knowledge and so much insight into the future?
Thank you. Well, what we're going to be working on next is really looking at this issue of young black men of color and doing some work. There's a campaign around young men of color here in Los Angeles that a lot of foundations are interested in. And so we're going to be working on some reports around that so that we can really change that school to prison pipeline for kids in California.
That's a must.
Oh, absolutely a must. You know, I mean, our community is hit so hard by it. And, you know, you always think of it as just a male issue. But one of the growing populations is among girls of color, black girls, Latina girls. And then on top of that, of course, we can think about, I have 3 nieces. Who are my nieces going to marry?
Sure.
When they grow up one day, if all of these kids are getting diverted and they're either, you know, sent to prison or they're shot or killed before their time. So we really do need to resolve this problem. And I think there's this ongoing 5-year effort led by Dr. Robert Ross at the California Endowment to really get this on the map and resolve this once and for all.
Dr. Hancock, as we conclude our conversation, one of the things about giving is, especially from our community, is the trust factor. From your perspective, what are 3 elements a potential donator like myself should look for in terms of giving to an organization?
I think there are 3 things. And the first you already mentioned, which is this issue of trust. You should really trust your gut in the sense of if you trust the people that are asking you for the money and what they are doing for the money. And there are a number, Charity Watch is one and some others, that you can go online and actually get a report of how trustworthy the foundation is, or the organization, nonprofit organization is. The second thing is transparency. Any 501c3 organization, which is a foundation, which is a nonprofit, which is a church, any 501c3 foundation should be able to provide you with some sort of annual report that can actually tell you how they have used the money that they've received in the past.
Okay.
And then the third thing is to really think about how you would like to maximize your impact. Okay. And so you can do that in 2 different ways. Number 1, of course, you can join with others in that kind of collective susu way.
Susu.
Right, which is what, again, the West Indians call it. In the United States, we call it something formal. It's called a donor circle, or giving circle.
Sure.
And so that way everybody's putting in $100 and you give away $1,000, right, if there's 10 people.
Right.
So you can maximize your impact that way by giving to one thing. Or you can maximize your impact by deciding that you're going to specialize in one area. Say you really care about black women and black women's education or black women and domestic violence. You specialize and say, I might give $500 and it might be 100, but I'm only going to give to a certain issue because that's what I really care about. I really care about violence, or I really care about hunger, or the prison system, or something like that. And so you maximize your impact because you start to specialize your knowledge and read and be invited to events and learn and talk to people. And then you're able to better distinguish for the trust and transparency because you can compare organizations instead of just getting cold calls or direct mail.
Sure. Stay away from that.
Yeah.
Dr. Ange-Marie Hancock, professor here at USC and the author of Giving Black in Los Angeles. Thank you for being with REELURBANNEWS.com.
Thank you so much.